Alright, so the guys make it home that afternoon. They enter town down the main street and there's a couple people here and there. Some shop owners standing out front of their place enjoying the weather, etc. The general store owner comes running up to them and he's like, "Where the hell's Billy?" "He's dead," Sheriff returns quickly. "We gotta get to the dock right now." By now more people are popping out of wherever they were hiding. They get up to the dock's place with a train of people in tail, all wondering what the hell is going on and not getting answers. Was it Indians? Was it an animal? Did he shoot himself on accident? Doc hears the commotion and comes outside as they approach. He's looking at the horse, knowing full well there's a dead body in the sleeping bag, then sees Sheriff's bandaged up, bloody red hand. Inside, Doc starts in on them as they put the sleeping bag up on the exam table. "I told you it was a bad idea to go up there." "What happened?" He starts undoing the sleeping bag. Sheriff stops him. "Hold on. Before you look, you need to hear what happened first." So they tell him the whole thing. Of course he doesn't believe them. "Now I told you there could be toxins up there. Some kind of space dust you inhaled that made you hallucinate. I sure hope I don't have to call the state marshals to start a murder investigation." "Well, don't take our word for it, goddammit," Smokey says. "Here you go." He whips open the sleeping bag Doc had untied. Doc jolted and jumped back. After a few seconds of staring, he starts getting closer again. "He looks like Swiss cheese, don't he?" Angeli says dryly. "He bit the hell out of my hand. Damn near might have torn out my jugular if I hadn't gotten it up in time. I made a judgment call afforded to me as a lawman. He tried biting everyone else, so I put him down. Then he got back up." "People don't just get up after being shot," Doc says, not taking his eyes off Billy's corpse. "Well, he did," Jack says. "And no, we didn't have any alcohol up there. Nobody even brought any." "Headshots stopped him for good," Sheriff says, pointing to the huge hole in Billy's head. Doc kind of snaps out of his trance. "Okay, so a turtle bit him and by night he was this?" "Yes," Sheriff says. "There was something in that water. Turtle was covered in it. I'm gonna need that turtle to find out if it was carrying some kind of infection," Doc says. Doc and Sheriff start playing the who has more authority card. "Nobody is going back up there," Sheriff says. "Too dangerous. Whatever that turtle had, it's safe to say Billy did too." Doc is staring at Billy again. It's like he's been dead for weeks. This happened overnight. "Sheriff is bit too, Doc," Smokey says. He kind of says it with dread in his voice. Doc checks his hand out. "That's quite a bite. Nice work cauterizing it. I've got some antibiotics to start you on, not sure if they'll help though." The rest of the guys murmur quietly. Thought it looked worse yesterday," Smokey ponders. "Why doesn't he look sick?" Jack asks. Doc goes into a long spiel. "There could be several reasons. I said the antibiotic may not help because it sounds like whatever was transferred to Billy is probably viral. A couple things can happen when it comes to any disease, bacterial or viral. 99% of people will get infected, get sick and show signs, and be contagious and fall prey to whatever the disease causes, up to death depending what it is. The other 1% could be three different things. First, you could straight up be immune to the disease. For whatever reason it's not able to overcome your immune system. You won't show signs, you won't be sick, and you won't be contagious." "I hope he's immune," Angeli interrupts. Doc doesn't miss a beat. "The second thing is you could be a carrier. That means you're infected, but you don't feel sick and you don't show symptoms. You are still contagious, however. How do we know if he's immune or carrying?" Smokey asks. "I'll have to do some blood tests. I'll probably have to run cultures, which takes time." "What's the third thing that can happen?" Sheriff asks. "Well, we don't have to worry about that one since you would already be showing. But the last thing that can happen is the pathogen completely mutates your DNA. Once it enters your body, within hours your body could start changing physically. muscle tissue overgrowth, skeletal growth or shrinkage, severe decrease or increase of mental function. The list of physical changes could be endless. So until we know, I need to act like I'm a carrier, Sheriff says. That's correct, Doc returns. Don't use the public outhouse, only prepare your own food, keep that hand wrapped tight. Sheriff says he's just going to go home and stay there and run his office off his front porch. So they all leave the Doc's place as he gets ready to do the autopsy on Billy. Doc only has one nurse with him, but she was more like an assistant than an actual nurse. They glove up and get their table ready. It's at this point that the shit really starts, and honestly, it was a complete freak accident. At his point, Doc instructs the nurse to remove Billy's teeth for dental records while he examines what's left of Billy's brain. Doc has a suspicion that whatever made Billy sick specifically affected his brain, given he apparently went insane and tried to attack everyone. Doc was also interested in the brain because that was what eventually stopped Billy for good when he was shot there. Okay, Doc starts. So, his brain appears to be covered in a foreign substance of some kind. Most of the blood is coagulated and dried, but this appears to still be moist. I can verify it is silver in hue. He's telling the nurse so she will be able to help him write his notes. Now this next part is what screws everything up. Doc is poking around the brain and he must have hit a nerve of some kind. Whatever he hits causes Billy's jaw to close hard and quick. Remember what the nurse is doing? She's trying to pry his teeth out. Despite being dead, Billy manages to bite the nurse's finger hard. She lets out a cry and Doc gets all worried. It didn't break the skin, did it? He asks hurriedly. They both make a huge mistake here. The nurse lies and says it didn't break the skin, it did. Doc also doesn't ask to look at it, he can't seem to pry himself away from Billy's carcass. The nurse says she's just going to go wash her hand real quick to be safe and Doc lets her. She comes back with a band-aid on her finger, but since the gloves they were wearing were opaque, Doc doesn't notice. Doc moves on to the torso and cuts Billy open. There's silvery shit everywhere. It was definitely in his bloodstream. I think I might be able to isolate a sample. They wrap up what they're doing after a couple hours, and the nurse goes home while the Doc writes his notes. It's dusk by now, so everyone will be start hitting the sack before long. Doc is up all night though. More on that later. That was also the last night in that town's existence. Angley, Jack, and Smokey had gone out looking for their horses after leaving Doc's, but didn't have any luck. They decide to shack up in a small hut a couple miles outside of town. It was getting late and the person who had owned that house had died a couple months prior. Anyway, they wake up early before the sun is even up and decide the horses are long gone, so they should just head back to town. The sun is starting to come up when they reach town, and they can see before they even get there a lot of people are already up and walking around town. Smokey thinks this is strange, saying, "And I thought we got up early, seems like the whole town is already up and at 'em." They get to town and the sun is up, but it was just dark enough that they didn't notice what was going on. Jack sees a guy he recognizes and calls out, "Hey, Mac." Mac stops and turns around, and the three guys all stop dead in their tracks. Half of Mac's face is gone, all that's left is half muscle tissue and half of it straight down to the bone. The rest of his body isn't much better. He starts shambling towards the guys, not a full-scale sprint, but not exactly slowly either. "Holy shit, it's spread." Smokey calls out. Nobody else has time to call out. Smokey and Angley retreat while Jack stands his ground and shoots Mac. His head. Angley yells. Mac goes down with a boom. Everyone else on the street turns their attention to the guys and start shambling towards them. Some were missing all assortments of limbs, from fingers, to hands, to arms. Most were missing large chunks of flesh. Apparently one in particular had no flesh left at all on their head, and it was just a skeleton head on a decayed body. "The whole fucking town?" Smokey yells. They all shoot off a couple rounds before realizing the whole town is gone. Now they don't know anything about what happened during the autopsy, but remember the nurse? Yeah, she went off somewhere and died during the night. The bad news was she was living in the town, and for the time being, since a lantern had tipped over and started a small fire where she lived. Anyway, nobody knows who she bit first, but you know how it goes. She ate someone, then they came back and ate someone else. Whole town was probably gone within an hour. Ruin! Anjali yells. They scatter as the horde approaches. Smokey and Angley duck into the saloon while Jack disappears somewhere else. What do we do? Anjali shrieks. I don't know. Don't make any noise, shut the hell up. Smokey whispers loudly. It was too late. A couple zombies were already heading towards the saloon. Upstairs. Smokey yells. They hear a couple gunshots outside, probably from Jack. They start upstairs and almost get there when the door to the room at the top of the stairs flies open and a zombie snarls and tackles Anjali, who is going first. Anjali and the zombie fall back, while Smokey reacts and backs up against the banister. They tumble down to the bottom of the stairs. It's a grisly sight. The zombie starts eating Anjali right away. He hits it a couple times and tries to get a shot off, but by this time a bunch more zombies have burst through the saloon's swinging double door and they start in two. Smokey gets upstairs and realizes he's cornered, so he steps over the railing and jumps down to the bar. He quickly jumps down behind it. What has been described as Anjali getting eaten sounds pretty awful. Smokey sees a zombie a couple feet away with an arm and another one has his leg nearby. The screams before being cut off in a gurgling grunt sound like something you simply can't unhear. So Smokey is hiding behind the bar wondering what the hell he is going to do. It sounds like the zombies have picked Anjali clean, though they seem to just be shambling around. It's like they forgot he was there. Smokey morbidly thinks to himself Anjali isn't going to look good when he rises back up. Smokey hid for what seemed like an eternity when he heard loud footsteps coming from the doorway. It was definitely hooves. He pops up and sees the sheriff riding his whole damn horse into the saloon, a bunch of zombies behind him. He's got a shotgun on him and he blasts the two zombies nearest to him. They were close enough together he got them both, their heads basically exploding. He gets a second shot he blasts off and throws the whole gun at the nearest zombie. It was a double barrel so he only had the two shots. Anyway, this catches everyone else's attention but he already has his pistol out. He gets maybe 3 more before the horde behind him catches up. His horse freaks out and bucks him off so Sheriff crawls on the floor under some tables away from the zombies. It's kind of sad, he's able to escape because they get his horse. Out the back. Sheriff yells at Smokey. They scurry out the back. What happened? Smokey yells. I don't know, I came into town to see the doc and found everyone was like Billy. Doc's got his place locked up tight. Curtains drawn and everything. We need to find Jack, Smokey says. He's on his own, Sheriff says. We need help, and we need it now. Huh? Smokey says. Sheriff quickly explains the help he wants to get is from the friendly Indians nearby, a couple miles southwest. Which tribe it was has changed over the years, but most people seem to think it was the Paiute. Smokey agrees they need the help so they sneak down to the south end of town. Sheriff leads them to the doc's place, where he has Anjali's horse tied up to the horse rail. There's a bag laying on the ground with a rope tied around it connected to the saddle. The bag clearly has a body in it. I found Anjali's horse screwing around on my property this morning. I brought it in and tied Jones up to him after I had to kill him. I want to show those Indians exactly what we're up against, Sheriff explains. They mount up and ride away as a bunch of zombies are headed towards them. Once they're in the clear, Smokey asks, you really think they'll help us? I've actually talked to them quite a few times, Sheriff says. They're a spiritual people, they have rich folklore, the way they talk about their ancestry. I bet they have a story of some kind dealing with the dead. If anything, I'm sure they have some warriors they can spare to help us kill these damn things. Smokey doesn't argue. They ride out a couple miles until they come across a scouting party. The village is a short ways past them. It seems like one of the Indians recognizes Sheriff. He waves at him and the Indian motions with his hand to his buddies and starts riding out to meet them. Sheriff talks to his friend, who has come to be known as Buffalo/Horse, about what is going on. He doesn't show Buffalo/Horse what's in the bag, but he agrees to take them to the chief. Now, we call him Buffalo/Horse because his name was something Indian sounding, like rides with buffalo or runs with bison or something, but apparently Smokey called him Buffalo/Horse on accident at some point because he forgot his name, plus Buffalo/Horse is a lot easier to write than rides with buffalo, so there you go. Anyway, they get to the chief's teepee and Sheriff and Smokey wait outside a minute and untie Jones from the horse. Buffalo/Horse comes out and says the chief will see them. They go inside, dragging Jones behind them, and see the chief and what must be his council all sitting on the ground. The chief says something in their native language. "Why have you come, and what do you bring with you?" The person sitting next to the chief translates. "We got ourselves a little problem," Sheriff begins. The guy translates. "The dead have come back to life, we need your help stopping it." The translator looks surprised, but, almost reluctantly, translates. The chief appears to ponder this statement while giving Sheriff a steely gaze. "Look here," Sheriff says, unveiling Jones. Jones raises his head and snarls, he wasn't actually dead. The council and everyone else in the teepee jump to their feet and let out murmurs of shock and surprise. One member of the council yells loudly something in their language, then rushes over and buries his tomahawk into Jones's head. "I thought you said he was dead," Smokey whispers to Sheriff. "I lied," Sheriff whispers back. "We got a town full of these," Sheriff says. The council all deliberate, it seems like they might be telling the chief to tell Sheriff and Smokey to go to fuck themselves. The chief speaks and the translator translates. "You will take Buffalo/Horse and Fish River with you. They will help you kill them, and make sure none are left." Of course his name isn't Fish River. He was the top fisherman in the tribe, so his name was related to that. I want to say it was swims with fish, or runs with the river, but either way I don't know for sure, and, once again, Fish River is a lot easier to write out. Hope nobody is offended by these nicknames. So Buffalo/Horse and Fish River leave to gather their weapons. The chief says something to Sheriff and Smokey in English as they are leaving the tent. "Beware the bite of the dead man." "Thank you," Sheriff says, not just for that tidbit of information, but for their help as a whole. "Beware the bite" was the first damn thing we learned, Smokey says once they're outside. "Yeah, I told you they'd have some kind of knowledge about this. You see, that one guy went straight for the head." Buffalo/Horse and Fish River ride over. "All right men," Sheriff says. "Looks like we've got a town to clean up." The Indians lend Smokey a spare horse and the four of them ride back towards town. They get about a mile from town when they start noticing some stragglers. There's a couple of townsfolk who have shambled out of town and are just lost wandering the open land. Buffalo/Horse and Fish River take the opportunity to show what they can do. Buffalo/Horse uses his bow and he pulls off a miraculous headshot from about 50 yards out. Fish River rides up to his guy and smokes him in the head with some kind of club, the force of which knocks the whole, rotting head off the shoulders. Anyway, they make a startling discovery at this point. A little past these two stragglers they find a cow just standing in the middle of nowhere, its entire side missing flesh with its rib cage and half of its guts on the ground next to it. After putting it down they realize they're going to have to sweep the entire countryside all around town, not just for zombies wandering off, but any animals they happen to eat along the way. They decide to split up and do a wide circle around town to clean up anything they find, before moving into town proper. A lot of people's houses as well they decide to clear first. Most of them were single-story and only a room or two. Smokey and Fish River and Sheriff and Buffalo/Horse. They start at the south and ride their way to the north side of town. They find a couple of stragglers they put down and Sheriff ends up finding his horse as well, half limping after some kind of desert rodent to eat it. It was probably nice for Sheriff to be able to put him down for good, in a morbid kind of way.